It is Daytona 500 week. Thank you so much for joining us on Motorsport Minute. My name is Mitchell Breuer, and boy, do we have a big show here tonight for you, previewing the upcoming NASCAR season. And we begin where the NASCAR season always starts, at Daytona.
The great American race, the granddaddy of them all, the Super Bowl of stock car racing, the Daytona 500, the sights, the sounds, the grandeur.
It's always just such a big deal, and you could feel it when you're standing on pit road for the Daytona 500. Just the atmosphere, the number of people, depending on who the guests are there, everything. You can actually feel the difference standing there than any other race.
Now going back there with all the fan support, the president's been there the last couple of times in the last 5 years, and it's just really special to be able to stand out there on the grid at the Daytona 500 race day, stand on pit road, and just look around and see all the people that come out to watch.
NASCAR's biggest race of the season is its first. Just what does it mean?
I don't think the honor of it ever gets old, just the honor to be able to race in it in every year. This will be my 10th one, and just to have that opportunity every season to compete in it and have a shot to win, right? I think we all go down there, no matter who you are in that race, with the sense that we have as good of a shot as anybody to win. And that's always a fun feeling to start the season off. To be able to win that race would be obviously a lifelong achievement. It'd be pretty exciting in the moment, but it'd be something your whole life you get to be a Daytona 500 winner, which is something that would be pretty neat.
For some, it's intertwined with their bloodline.
Honestly, hard to put into words. I think, it's just such a special race. It's a race that, I grew up going to, with my dad racing, and he got the pole there once, and just experiencing that as a kid, I feel like is exactly what made me, even want to be a race car driver in general. So, my first Daytona 500 was like incredibly special, like something I'll never forget. But really just the energy every single year that we go there, and you feel is definitely out of this world. And it's really, really cool.
For others, it's a chance to add another point on an already legendary resume.
And it's a big one. There's no doubt. To say you've won the Daytona 500 is definitely a spectacular thing to have on your resume. It's a great moment. I tell you, it's so exciting when you're able to do that. So you get one shot a year to make the most of it. So we're looking forward to getting down there, getting our car dialed in, and hopefully position ourselves in the right spot when it matters.
A chance to start your season on an incredible note. For one driver, it's a chance to make history. William Byron, who enters the event, winning the last two 500s with a chance to go 3 in a row, something no driver has ever done. For guys like Brad Keselowski and Kyle Busch, two drivers who have done almost everything there is to accomplish in NASCAR, is an opportunity to do one thing neither driver has done: win the 500, a race that took 20 years of trying for one of the sport's best to conquer. In a race of unpredictability, there's one thing for certain: the winner will etch his name in the record books among the sport's best.
We've got plenty of NASCAR action this week at Daytona on the KTC family of networks, starting Saturday with the ARCA Menards Series. That race will air on Fox 47 at 11 a.m. Later on in the day, we move over to the CW for the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. That race at 4 p.m. And then on Sunday, it's one of my favorite days of the year. Time for the big race, the Daytona 500. Coverage begins on Fox 47 at 11:30 a.m. This season features a lot of change throughout the entire landscape of NASCAR. The biggest difference, though, for this upcoming season is how the sport will crown its champion. The chase is back.
Chase is back. For the first time since 2013, NASCAR will revert back to a more minimalistic approach when it comes to determining their champion. So for those unfamiliar, what is the chase? Let's start with the basics. At the end of the 26-race regular season, there will be a 10-race playoff with 16 drivers, the top 16 in points. So what's the difference from the current format? Gone are the eliminations every 3 races. Gone are the playoff points. Gone is the one race to determine the champion. Gone is the win and you're in format, meaning a regular season race win will no longer guarantee you a playoff spot. As previously stated, the chase will consist of the top 16 drivers in points.
I mean, the thing is, and stuff we've already looked at in this offseason is how do you actually get in, right? Once you get to that reset, then you're going to start somewhat behind whoever's first if we're not first, right? And so then you got to figure out how to catch that specific person or kind of see who you're racing in that battle. But for us, it's about looking at the last several years and figuring out how many points we've been out of that bubble or if we've been right at that bubble, and how to actually get into that top 16 because of the no longer winning in. I think that is a huge shift for our team. We've lived close to that bubble all the time, but most of the time you're focusing on how do I get a win, jump in. That way I'm not battling the guy who's 10th in points to get in. Now we're usually in that 17th, 18th place window in points every year. How do we get that little bit more to cross into the group that makes it?
Once the chase begins, the driver with the most points at the end of the 10 races will be the champion. Another change, if you win a race, you will now earn up to 55 points, up from 40 in the previous format. President Steve O'Donnell says this new format will reward performance and honor the sport's history. NASCAR says the move comes after fan complaints about the current system. Taking a look at the seeding for the chase, and immediately you're going to notice two things. Number one, the number one seed. The regular season champion, a 25-point advantage over second to start the chase, and a 100-point advantage over the 16th seed, which leads us to our second point. The 16th seed gets 0 bonus points heading into the final races of the seasons. Congratulations, you just fended off a field of hungry drivers to battle for a title. Here's another hill to climb. A clear emphasis that every race is going to matter, something that the critics of the sport have demanded.
I think the format we had with the win and in was good for a stretch. Obviously, it put on a great few championship races, but I think it got to the point where it just got a little funny. There were some guys that were getting in the playoffs that probably didn't belong there. We saw some guys that were above 30th in points that were in the round of 16, and that's not exactly what was intended with that playoff format.
When you look through the field, there are many drivers that this change will have a direct effect on. The obvious being the teams right on the bubble of being a top 16 team in the sport. With the win and you're in out, it'll be tougher for some of these less established teams to earn spots in NASCAR's postseason. However, all of the drivers we talk to look at this as an opportunity to further prove themselves against the sport's best.
You would think being on a smaller team in some people's eyes, and the win and you're in is disappointing to us, but I don't really feel that way. I feel we can execute on trying to be more consistent than the next guy and get in, and still wins are worth a lot of points.
Speaking of proving themselves, one could argue there is something to be proven for Joey Logano, not only who advocated for the previous format, but thrived in it, winning not 1, not 2, but 3 NASCAR Cup Series championships during the elimination era.
And obviously one of the big things this season is the change in the playoff structure. You were somebody that was very successful in the previous playoff structure. Just curious what your thoughts are now that NASCAR is going back to this chase format.
Yeah, I'm good with it. If that's what everybody wants, and that's what we're gonna do. And I'm the kind of person, just tell me the rules, and then let us go figure out how to win it. Right? Like that's our goal. That's what we're supposed to do as competitors. So, as long as they're the same for everyone to start, which they are, I'm good.
Does that give you a little extra motivation to go out and be like, I can win it in this format too, just as easy as I did last one?
Oh, 100%. No, it wasn't easy. The other ones either, if I'm being honest, but it does give you extra motivation to be able to win in different formats. It's something that would be really special to be able to accomplish. It'd probably be the sweetest one, if I'm being honest, to win it. So hopefully we can do that.
Another big difference this season will be the overall schedule for the year. This year will feature some of the sport's most iconic tracks with new dates, points-paying races at racetracks that haven't hosted a points-paying race in some time, and a new trip to San Diego. Let's break it all down.
The chase isn't the only change happening with NASCAR this season, as the 36 race schedule will look different this year. The season starts out with 3 straight races on Fox 47 with the Daytona 500, followed by a trip to Atlanta and COTA. After heading out to the West Coast for dates at Phoenix and Vegas, the first noticeable change in the schedule will take place at Darlington, with their first race taking place on March 22nd, up a few weeks from their April date last season. Following Darlington, a pair of short tracks in Martinsville and Bristol before NASCAR returns to Fox 47 for 2 weeks with races at Kansas and Talladega. From there, NASCAR goes to Texas Motor Speedway before a massive change in the schedule. Watkins Glen, a road course that has never held a NASCAR date earlier than July, will move to a May 10th date for the 2026 season. That change is followed by another massive adjustment in the schedule as the All-Star race will move to Dover Motor Speedway, a track that has hosted a points race every year since 1969. It will not this season, leaving a lot of questions surrounding the event.
Not sure how that race is going to be, or the format of that race.
Following the All-Star race, Amazon Prime takes over the coverage with the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte, followed by Nashville, Michigan, and Pocono. Prime's coverage wraps with a new facility on NASCAR's schedule as the sport heads to San Diego for the first time to compete on a street course at the Naval Base Coronado on June 21st.
I think it's going to be a really cool event. The fact that it's, celebrating the Navy and their anniversary and doing something on military base, it's going to be really unique. I thought the Chicago event was really cool, the kind of street course vibe and the uniqueness of it. And I think this is going to kind of fill that void, but in an even more unique way. So I would say that's probably the event specifically I'm looking forward to the most.
After San Diego, TNT returns, and so does the in-season challenge, kicking off with Sonoma on June 28th. 4th of July will mark a homecoming for NASCAR as the sport heads to Chicagoland Speedway for the first time since 2019.
I'm excited to go back to Chicagoland. That was always one of my favorite tracks, racing up through Trucks Xfinity and Cup. I was sad to see it go and excited to see it come back. I think it's going to be a great turnout, and I also think it's going to be a great race.
Following Chicago is another trip to Atlanta and then another return. For the first time since 1996, North Wilkesboro Speedway will host a points-paying event, with that race taking place on July 19th. The Brickyard 400 concludes TNT's coverage of NASCAR for the season, with the USA Network picking up the race closest to KTTC's viewing area, that taking place at Iowa Speedway. The 350-lap race will take place on August 9th. After trips to Richmond and New Hampshire, NASCAR returns to KTTC on August 29th for the regular season finale at Daytona International Speedway. The 10-race chase kicks off Labor Day weekend at Darlington Raceway, followed by trips to Gateway, Bristol, Kansas, and Las Vegas. Then comes a late change in the schedule, with NASCAR announcing just last week that the Charlotte Motor Speedway fall date will move from the road course configuration of the track back to the oval for the first time since 2017.
I mean, the Roval just announced, it sounds like that we're going back to the oval here in Charlotte. So love that. I'm good with that.
The trip back to the oval is followed by another change, with Phoenix Raceway moving from the final race of the season to October 18th. The final 3 races of the season are back on KTTC as the battle for the championship runs through Talladega and Martinsville, with the season finale heading back to Homestead Miami Speedway for the first time since 2019.
The championship race being back in Homestead, I think, is a great fit. I was always a fan of finishing the year off there, and I think it'll be another great return for us.
NASCAR Cup Series isn't the only place seeing a lot of change this season. A newly rebranded NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series will have a lot of noticeable difference outside of the title sponsor this season. Connor Zilisch, who won 10 races in the last season, will turn his attention to the NASCAR Cup Series this season, leaving the door open for new rising stars to take some of that spotlight. Here to help us look ahead to the upcoming season is former Daytona 500 winner and a current member of the NASCAR on CW broadcast team, Jamie McMurray. New season coming up here on the CW. What can our viewers look forward to?
Well, the one thing about the Xfinity series is you get to have some new guys come in that you're not familiar with. Last year, we had Connor Zilisch, who had this incredible year, won 10 races. A lot of fun to watch him evolve and move on to the Cup Series. This year, we've got some new guys. Brent Cruz would be the one that comes to my mind, going to be at Joe Gibbs Racing. He and Connor actually have grown up racing together, so expectations are high for him, but I'm excited to see kind of where he's going to stack up in his rookie year.
And you kind of mentioned these newish faces, one of them being Brent Cruz and Raja Caruth. What what can the fans need to know about them heading into this season?
Well, Raja's in an interesting position because he's going to do it with multiple teams, and I think that adds a different level of toughness to or complications to it, because you're going to work with not just being in different cars, but also different crew chiefs and just different group of people you're around. So I think Raja is going to have his hands full with that, but he's been really impressive in the Truck Series and in the races that I've watched him run. So I expect him to do well, especially when he's in a junior motorsports car. And then with Brent, I mean, like getting to be at Gibbs, that's Gibbs has just such good cars. I would say last year Gibbs would have had the second best cars next to junior motorsports. But yeah, I mean, those two guys, there's so much. It's overwhelming to come into a new series and run full time, but they're young, and we had our media day last week, and to see the excitement that those guys have heading into the season, it makes me excited to kind of see how they're going to perform.
Now, obviously, we have Jesse Love coming back this season. Defending champ, obviously, there's a lot of conversation about how he won the championship last season. What do you think his outlook is going into the new year? And do you think there's a little bit of like a chip on his shoulder, perhaps, just because of how everything ended last year?
Yeah, I don't think there'll be a chip on his shoulder. I would tell you that they ran really well all season long. And to be able to come into that last race and win the race, win the championship, huge for them. I think the confidence of Jesse Love heading into this year is going to be higher than ever. His biggest competition, Connor Zilic, has moved on. So I think that, for those guys, with Connor, winning 10 races last year, I think a lot of people's confidence is up. And the other one that I look at is Austin Hill, because there's no one who wants to go out and perform this year more than Austin Hill, based on the fact that his teammate won the championship. And I feel like as we headed into last season, you probably would have put Austin in front of Jesse on who you thought was going to be a contender for the championship. And so I could tell as we talked to him in Media Week last week, Austin's desire. I mean, it's hard to say that it can be higher than it was the year before, but I think it is, for the simple fact that his teammate won the championship last year.
And two guys in our Minnesota, Iowa area, William Swalich and Sammy Smith. What do you think about their season heading into this year?
Yeah, I mean, William got hurt at the end of the year, and he seems fully recovered and ready to go. And I would say last year was disappointing for Swalich, just based on the expectations he had coming in. And it was interesting to listen to him talk about, that things were harder or a bigger challenge than he expected. And, one of the things he referenced was running full time. And when you race every week, when things are going well, it's great. But if you get off, on the wrong track, it's hard to come back every single week. I think he's going to have a better season than he did last year, just because of the experience he has and what he has learned. And Sammy Smith, I mean, he's become kind of a regular, in the Xfinity series now. And the thing that he has on his side is that I think he's with the best organization. He's going to have a new crew chief this year, but Junior Motorsports in general had the best cars week in and week out. And it didn't seem to matter whether we were at a Daytona, Talladega type track, or if we were at a road course. It didn't matter where we went. It just seemed like JRM had the best cars. So I like the position that Sammy's in as well.
And one of the big points of this year is the fact that Chase is being brought back, not just in Cup, but in all three of NASCAR's top three series. How do you think that will impact things in the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts series?
Well, it's clearly going to make it, I don't want to say more fair, because as we look at the Cup Series, I think is the one that I lean on more than anything. Larson was going to win that either way, whether kind of no matter which format that was. But it's also really hard. It's really hard when you look at different formats because people race differently. If it's a win and get in, the other races are in that round, you race differently. So I think it's hard to compare. NASCAR hit a home run with fans, though. It did seem like most of the fans wanted to go back to more races to decide the champion. I could kind of argue that either way. The excitement heading into Phoenix every year of not knowing who the champion was going to be was a lot of fun from our perspective, covering races. But if I went back to being a driver, I would tell you I think the 10 races is a pretty good balance of the both of those. I actually did the full season points at the beginning of my career, and the one thing that I feel like is really important for fans to remember is that all of the changes that have been made were because we didn't like it at that time. And if you go back to like I think it was Kenseth clear back in 2003, he ran away with it, won the championship, with a couple of races to go, and people felt like that wasn't exciting enough. So then we had the chase, and we've had all these different formats. So you just got to be careful. I heard this great saying the other day that nostalgia is a drug, and sometimes what we remember it wasn't as good as what we remember. But I do think that it's a good balance right now of having multiple races decide the winner versus just decide the champion versus just one.
And obviously, another big change with the series this year is going from Xfinity to O'Reilly. What what kind of difference, if any, will that make for fans, and what can they kind of expect with this new partnership?
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, the difference for us is going to be not saying the wrong name at the beginning of the year. And again, I've been a part of. It was Winston Cup, it was Sprint Cup, it was Nextel Cup. Now it's just Cup. It was the Bush Series at one time, and then Nationwide, and then Xfinity. So I've been a part of a bunch of these, and it becomes normal after 4 or 5 months. But those first few races, I'm sure that we will step on our foot a couple of times in saying the wrong thing because you just get so acclimated to saying Xfinity. O'Reilly Auto Parts will be an adjustment, but I think for the fans, once you get 2 3 months in, it'll just seem normal.
And lastly, I just gotta say, I think we've done a couple of these Zooms. I think you win for best background, especially with the Daytona 500, the Brickyard 400, and the Coke 600, or the Charlotte Trophy, I should say. All of those just look awesome back there. Do you ever just walk into the room and just be like, man, this is pretty awesome? Or is it just kind of normal for you?
Well, it's kind of new. Just so you know, I just put all this up within the last 6 months or so. We had these helmets in our attic in boxes, and I never really knew how to display them. And my wife came downstairs and she's like, we should do something with those. And so we came up with this idea, and then kind of having the trophies in front, and it's super cool. Like on the Zoom call, it's not as impressive. I feel like if you're sitting here looking back, but when I logged on just now to see you, I was like, that backdrop, it looks really nice.
Well, it does look awesome, and just want to thank you for your time today, and have fun covering this very fun series this season.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on.
A reminder that you can catch the full NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series season on the CW this year. Shifting gears now to the NASCAR's third series, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, and it's a similar story. Corey Heim, much like Connor Zilisch, dominated the Truck Series last season, but will not be returning in a full-time capacity this year. One departure brings about another return, though, as Ram is returning to the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series this season in a new partnership with Colleague Racing to field not one, not two, not three, not four, five full-time entries in the series every single week, with four drivers competing full-time in the series, with the fifth being rotated on a weekly basis. Here to preview the upcoming season is the driver who proved to be one of Corey Heim's closest challengers last season, the driver of the number 34 Front Row Motorsports Ford, Lane Riggs. What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a great season. I really have a lot of momentum with our team from last year. Hopefully, we can just keep rolling over. I think I'm getting stronger each race as a driver, just learning and trying to, be more patient and also just trying to find speed in the little spots and trying to make the little things better that a lot of people from the outside don't really see. But we're going to some cool tracks, going to a couple street courses, going to Dover. That's a really cool track. That's a lot like Bristol that I've had a lot of success at. And, I think we're all in the NASCAR community looking forward to bringing the chase format back. I think that it's a lot more legitimate. I think that the driver that wins the championship this year, everybody is going to mutually agree they fully deserved it. There's going to be no real flukes with this format. So hopefully we had the speed that we had last year and it all pays off and we're staying on top of the podium at the end of the year. That's what I'm mainly looking forward to.
You mentioned kind of that championship format. Outside of Corey Heim, you were probably right there as one of the best guys in the field. Obviously, Heim's not coming back for a full season this season. Does that put pressure on you to kind of be like, okay, this is my time to show that I'm the best guy in this series?
Yeah, I wouldn't say pressure, but it's exciting for me, and not to shy away from competition. I enjoyed racing against Corey. He taught me a whole lot, and I said hopefully I can just apply it to this next class of people that are going to be in the Truck Series next year. I know it's going to be tough competition. I mean, you got Caden Honeycutt's going to be filling his shoes, which that's not going to be any slouch. They're going to be probably racing each other just as hard as Corey and I are racing. You got Christian Eckes coming back, which had a lot of success in the Truck Series as well for his old team. Somebody like Gio Ruggiero coming in as well. I mean, there's a lot of competition. I would say just as much or more than last year. So it's not going to be any free ride or any easy way out with Corey not being there full time. But I think we're up to the task, and I think that we were showing at the end of the year that we were starting to compete and starting to almost equal their raw speed on most weekends. So, yeah, I'm just excited for that. I know that we got some rule changes that we've had, some body changes on the trucks that everybody's had to adapt to. We were supposed to be in Rockingham right now testing if there wasn't snow on the ground here. So, next week we will be there, and I'm excited for that to see what our program has, how we've developed, and how we stack up against the field.
And you talk about competition, I mean, the entry list isn't out, but that Daytona race is full of just stars and just kind of out of nowhere entries. What's it like for you as somebody that's younger in the sport to be going up against like somebody like a Tony Stewart, just seeing all these guys come together at Daytona?
Yeah, it's exciting, and then mainly for me and for everybody, the regulars in the truck series is the viewership. I mean, this will probably be one of the most viewed truck races ever with Tony coming back. I mean, it's like when you see Dale Jr. go and run a Cars Tour race or a late model race, how many viewership and the people there. I think the stands are going to be packed for the truck race, which is going to be really exciting for us and puts the regulars on a bigger stage than normal. And we like that. And if there's bigger names in the field, if you do win the race, that's bigger names that you beat. And that's how I've always looked at it. People always say, "Oh, look, the Cup guys come and cherry pick races and this and that." I like it because one, you got harder competition, and if you don't win, you usually learn a lot from those guys and what not to do. I take it Larson coming and running a couple races last year, for example, really taught me a lot that I've been able to apply since then. And if you do beat them, you get a lot. That trophy looks a little shinier when you know who you had to go through to get it. So I like that. I think it's going to be a really cool race. I think it's probably going to be, calamity, but I think that's most truck races at super speedways. But hopefully we just come out nice and smooth and we run up front all day. I know that myself and teammate Chandler Smith worked really well together at Daytona last year and had a lot of speed and turned a lot of heads. So I just hope that we can use that same kind of mentality this coming year.
And you mentioned the new playoff format with the chase. How does that change your mindset in just the entire season in general, especially the regular season, now that there's such a bonus for being like the regular season champion?
I think just consistency pays off more than anything. I mean, before the mindset is just win a race, nothing matters until the playoffs start, and then you can just put together some nice smooth races. And if you win again, it just locks you into the next round. Now you're not locked into anything. You'll get some bonuses to win, but just because you win doesn't mean that you get a free ticket the next weekend. And I felt like a lot of my mentality, and I've talked with my team and my crew chief and everybody about how I need to kind of change that a little bit. Once I was in the playoffs, I feel like during last year it was I kind of used this equalizer. I said I feel like I was Ricky Bobby. I would either win the race or I would wreck trying to win the race. And that's just the mentality you can't have with this format because the DNF is a game changer. I mean, you could be leading the points by 100 points and you have a DNF and you shrunk that lead a whole lot or would even lose it. So, I think just that consistency mindset, old school, every lap matters, every position matters. Minimize the really bad days. And if it takes too much of a risk to capitalize on those good days, it's not worth capitalizing too much, where you could possibly lowercase it and have a crash or DNF.
And looking at the schedule, one race that kind of pops out to me is that St. Petersburg race, which aligns with the IndyCar schedule. What does it mean to you just to have that kind of like partnership with another racing series?
Yeah, I think it's really cool that the Truck Series got chosen to do that. I mean, you know, going back to St. Petersburg, I didn't realize they raced there so long. I mean, since the 80s, they've been doing that street course. So, a lot of history there. And then also going with the IndyCar Series, again, it's going to be a lot of eyes on that race, just something so different for us. Jimmy Johnson's going to be in the field. I think, again, there's going to be a lot of calamity there, just steel bodies on a street course with concrete walls that you have to run right next to. I think that if you just don't hit the walls, you'll finish pretty good because a lot of people are. But I've been doing a lot of practice at the Ford Racing Simulator already, trying to get ready. I know that a lot of people are doing the same, and I really want to just turn up my road course racing. I mean, I feel like I've been pretty good at it so far. Had top five speed every time I've gone to one. But man, I really, really want to win a road course this year, and what better place to do it than there?
And last question for you. This is your third full season in the Truck Series. What do you think is the biggest thing you've learned from the first two that you're going to take into this year?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just learning and looking bigger picture for sure. And understanding there's always a next week. Don't push your cards and chips to the middle of the table yet. You got time. And also just the fundamentals of aero racing and understanding dirty air, drafting, the technicality that comes with that. You can't see it on TV. You can't see the wind like Earnhardt could. You have to learn it and feel it yourself and understand what that feels like. And also just the tire. I came from bias ply tires at short track levels, racing on Hoosiers forever, and just knew what it took to make speed on those. But since going to Goodyear radials, just trying to understand and learn how that feels and how you have to set the truck up and what balance and feel behind the wheel do I need to ask for in the simulator and practice that actually makes long run speed. And that's a lot different than what I grew up on and what I learned at a younger age. So just trying to unlearn that, relearn that, and make racing in dirty air and aero racing second nature. And I feel like I finally gotten a hold of that and know what it takes to make that speed and be able to focus on the little things and not have to worry about, okay, I'm following this guy in the corner. I'm going to get tight or I'm going to get loose and I have to change my line. I don't even think about that anymore. You just go in the corner, you just make corrections for it because you know what's about to happen. So just experience is everything.
The NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series will be on Fox 47 later this month for that race in St. Petersburg on February 28th. A good reminder that you can also catch the entire the entire NTT IndyCar Series on Fox this season as well. They will also be competing at St. Petersburg that weekend. With all that said, that is all we have this week. I know it was a short episode, but in all seriousness, I just want to thank all the drivers and teams and Jamie McMurray from the CW and the CW themselves for that helped us put together this big season preview piece. I also want to thank all of you for watching. I'm very excited for the upcoming NASCAR season. I'm very excited to cover it here on Motorsport Minute with every single one of you, and as well as all the other motorsports that are happening in the world. Yeah, so for that, I'm Mitchell Breuer signing off and hope to see you next week when we recap the Daytona 500. Thank you